Now I'm sure you guys have seen a top 10 or whatever number of the best Disney villains of all time. Rather you've read it in an article, seen it in a video, or even made your own list, it almost feels like they're all kind of the same. You have your Scars, your Cruella de Vils, your Chernobyls, your Jafars, your Maleficents. They always pop up on someone's list or another. But have you noticed that it's only villains from films by Walt Disney Animation Studios? What about the ones outside of that, but still made by Disney? And that's where this list comes in. Now for this top 10, it has to be a Disney villain that's not from Disney Animation Studios. It can be from Pixar, a TV series, a live action film, a theme park ride, or even a video game. Also, it has to be more directly from Disney. So unfortunately, villains like from Marvel or Darth Vader can't be on this list. I'm Adamat, and this is the top 10 other Disney villains.
So prepare for the coup of the century. Be prepared for the murkiest scam. Meticulous planning, tenacity spanning, decades of denial is simply why I'll be king undisputed, respected, saluted, and seen for the wonder I am.
Now I know that some of you guys are disappointed with the fact that I didn't put in any Marvel villains like Loki on the list, but I hope I make it up to you guys with them.
What? Why? Because I said.
You put it that way.
Proving that 5 heads can be better than one, the Fearsome Five are not just a bunch of thugs that work together to do some crimes and stuff, but are 5 of the most notorious supervillains of St. Canard who teamed up to finally get rid of Darkwing Duck. They are Quackerjack, an insane and dangerous toy maker; the Liquidator, once a successful businessman, now a being made entirely out of water; Megavolt, although lost a few brain cells, he's Darkwing's oldest and most powerful enemy that can control large amounts of electricity; Bushroot, half duck, half plant that pretty much has immortality; and finally, the leader of the group, Negaduck, Darkwing's evil twin from another dimension. Although these guys are the more cartoony comic book style of villains, emphasizing everything they do and say based on their powers, they're all fleshed out when it comes to their origins and personalities, whether it be revenge on Darkwing, a business rival, a school bully, or even for the name of science. Essentially, they're all a tragic tale that ended them into madness, and some are very unique with their stories, like Bushroot is actually persuaded not by money or power, but because he's a lonely man who seeks companionship. But then there's Negaduck, who is without a doubt the most ruthless villain of them all. As the opposite to DW, Negaduck only seeks out for chaos and destruction just to prove how sadistic and menacing he can be. Another thing he does to demonstrate this is that he would kill anyone he sees with anything like bazookas, bombs, even a chainsaw, since he holds no morals to anybody, even to the point that he would sabotage his own teammates to get what he wants. If there's one thing that's missing that shows that he's truly the evil version of Darkwing Duck, it's that he would only speak in swearing.
If you don't me ferociously, by the time I count 3, we're gonna see what a couple of do to your routine. Dr. Slug, he couldn't his out of a so this city wants a back there. Well, I'll show him who's
I will admit that Negaduck alone can be a good contender on this list, but with the combining forces of the other 4 supervillains, the Fearsome Five give out a whole new meaning to Let's Get Dangerous.
something like that, but worse. Be prepared.
You know, it's pretty hard to think about a nice thing to say about these villains. But the only nice thing that I could say about this guy It's that he smells like strawberries.
Climb a crow.
You lost, little doggy?
Now I'm sure that at first glance, nobody ever suspected Lotso to be a bad guy in the first place. When we see the toys first enter the Sunnyside daycare, he was very humble and friendly to them, giving them a tour of the place while escorting them to the dreaded caterpillar room. If you're a toy, a teacher, or even one of those kids, that place looks like a nightmare in general! But it's at this point when Lotso's true role in the daycare gets revealed. It turns out that Sunnyside is actually a toy prison, and in order to be played with properly in the place, you have to start from the bottom with the Toddlers of Doom, and if you don't like it, that's too bad, cause there's nothing you can do about it. Not even leaving Sunnyside is a viable option since he put in some tight security all over the daycare.
He's made us into a pyramid, and he put himself on top!
But back onto Lotso himself. When you don't make things go his way, he's no longer the huggable teddy bear he was at the beginning. In fact, he gets nastier as the movie progresses. Like Negaduck, he shows no morality to any toy, believing that they were all made so that they would end up in the trash. And the reason for this ideology is that his original owner replaced him when she forgot her toys at a park. And keep in mind, she only replaced him! Not Big Baby, not Chuckles, but only him! And another thing that I want to add is probably his most villainous act he ever did, which is at the end of the movie. In the dumpster scene, to be precise, Lotso was stuck in the garbage, which would lead him to his death in the incinerator. Naturally, Woody and Buzz managed to save him, but now it's up to Lotso to return the favor.
Push it! Push it! Where's your kid now, Sheriff?
Wow, even after they saved his life, he still wanted the toys to die. And you know what? He was actually very close to succeeding. I think just this scene alone really separates him from Sid and Stinky Pete as a villain. Lotso Huggenbear, as Buttercup said it best,
the guy may seem plush and huggable on the outside, but inside, he's a monster.
Be prepared.
Now, I will admit that this is probably the weirdest villain I have on the list, since he's not from a movie or a TV show or a video game or anything like that. He's actually a real person.
And he pointed across the street to this building. He said, "You know what they do there?" I said, "No, I have no idea." He said, "Well, that's actually where they make the animated movies." I went, "Oh, well, that's interesting." He said, "And it's your problem."
Yeah, I know what you're thinking. Why the fridge would I ever consider putting in an actual person on this list? Well, if you look closely, you'll see that Jeffrey is living the life of a Disney villain. Now, it all started in 1984 when the new CEO of Disney, Michael Eisner, hired Katzenberg to be in charge of the movie division of the company. He seems to be doing a really good job at it, but his biggest task there was to make something out of their failing animation studio. You see, back then, Disney's animated films weren't as successful or even as memorable than the ones made during the days of Uncle Walt, with failures such as The Black Cauldron. So what Jeffrey tried to do is to push the animators beyond their limits. For them, working with Katzenberg was an experience that was truly insane. To quote Glenn Keane, they were driven by a maniac at the wheel with his heavy foot at the accelerator, driving full speed in a crowded city. But is his act of tyranny at Disney Animation the reason why he's considered a villain? Nope. Actually, it would have made him one of Disney's greatest heroes. You see, it was under his leadership that we got some of Disney's greatest movies they've ever made, like The Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, and Aladdin. But little do people know that behind the success, there was a hidden war going on. The media was looking for a central figure to be the next Walt Disney who was responsible for bringing the animation studio back on its feet, and there was a battle going on for that title between Katzenberg, Michael Eisner, and Roy E. Disney. But then there's the president and chief operating officer of Disney, Frank Wells, who would come in as the peacemaker and help the three work together for the sake of the company. But unfortunately, on Easter 1994, he died in a helicopter accident. Jeffrey saw this as an open opportunity to become the new president. So he went out to the public to advertise their next movie, The Lion King, by saying, "Hey guys, check out what me and my crew made!" However, this would make Eisner really uncomfortable and decided not to give Jeffrey the job he wanted. This initially broke Katzenberg's heart, and after the premiere of The Lion King, he resigned. Later that year, he decided to join Steven Spielberg and David Geffen in order to create a new studio called DreamWorks SKG, with Jeffrey in charge of the animated films. Ever since then, with numerous of successful animated works under his belt both in quantity and quality, DreamWorks Animation has become Disney's greatest competitor in animation, even more than Warner Brothers and Don Bluth. Not to mention that some of their films have a sense of, familiarity to some of Disney's works. Now, before we move on, I just need to make something clear so that I don't get any single surprise lawsuits in my front door. This is not to say that Jeffrey Katzenberg is a bad guy. In fact, he actually got the Jean Hersholt Humanitarian Award for donating literally millions of dollars on education, art, and many different health causes. That and a lot of works from DreamWorks Animation are actually some of the greatest animated films in recent years, like Shrek, Kung Fu Panda, Madagascar, and even more. Jeffrey Katzenberg is a great guy, believe me. But in Disney's eyes, he is, in every sense of the word, a villain.
I see. Okay.
Be prepared.
Believe me when I say that this guy is on the list for a completely different reason than the rest.
I'd like to thank the Quack Street Boys and...
So, think you're hot cheese, eh? Well, what kind of show you gonna have with just that one cartoon? Oh.
When it comes to Pete, this is a character that pretty much everyone has seen before, but sometimes they just don't know it. Wherever you would find something that has Mickey Mouse or anyone from his gang, there's a really good chance that he's in there. And I don't mean just the animated shorts. You can also find him in movies like A Goofy Movie or The Three Musketeers, TV shows like The House of Mouse, DuckTales, or Goof Troop, even in countless of video games like Mickey's Magical Quest, Kingdom Hearts, or Epic Mickey. All of which are just some examples of where you can find Pete. As you could probably imagine, with all those appearances, he has been in all kinds of roles as a villain. We would see him as the main antagonist like in Three Musketeers, the villain's sidekick like in Kingdom Hearts, have a small role and still be threatening like in Mickey's Christmas Carol, or even times where he's not a villain like A Goofy Movie or Epic Mickey. Or is he?
Look at them all, so happy. They ain't never gonna know what hit them.
Well, too bad the company who made the Epic Mickey games closed down, so I guess nobody will know of my master plans. But I was right. They ain't never gonna know what hit 'em.
Anyways, most of the time, Pete would play as the everyday villain. Not someone who is full of evil and wants to take over the world, but a mean person you just really don't like. Maybe who's in a higher position than you and likes to abuse his power on you, like the captain of a steamboat, a landlord, a neighbor, a boss, and even more. Now I know that Pete is not the most evil or threatening villain in the realms of Disney. Trust me, even the runner-ups make better villains than him. But the true reason why he's on this list is not only because he's the oldest Disney villain, but he's also the oldest recurring Disney character ever made. Believe it or not, Pete actually made his debut long before Mickey Mouse was created. Heck, he was even made before the times of Oswald the Lucky Rabbit. The world was introduced to Pete on February 15th, 1925 in the short Alice Solves the Puzzle as part of the Alice's Comedies series, and ever since then, his nasty attitude and his search for trouble has been passed on from generation to generation. He may not be the best, but Pete is one of the true examples of a timeless Disney villain.
Be prepared.
Being a cartoon is often fun in games. Even when you get hurt, it's just passed on for laughs. But then everything stops when this guy comes along.
Is this man removing evidence from the scene of a crime?
I'm sure that anyone who has ever seen Who Framed Roger Rabbit is probably trembling in fear with the painful memories of meeting this guy. Judge Doom is essentially a man of the law, and anyone who is proven guilty will pay the consequences. He's one of those rare characters where his presence alone can strike fear, since he's as calm as he is both brutal and sadistic. But the most intriguing thing about this guy is his passionate hate towards the Toons, even if his henchmen are a bunch of Toons themselves. So much so that he actually created a way to kill off Toons permanently.
Turpentine, acetone, benzene. He calls it the dip.
Oh, and did I mention that he gladly demonstrated the powers of the dip by actually killing off a Toon? But I know what you guys are thinking. That's not the real reason why he's on this list now, is he? Actually, what people remember him most is at the end, when Eddie has to face him. I always like to think of Doom as a final boss in a video game, because after you beat him the first time around, not only does he come back stronger, but he also returns in his true form.
Holy smoke, he's a Toon! Not just a Toon!
Not only does he turn out to be a Toon himself, but he's actually a raging, killing psychopath who can turn his hand into any weapon he wants, showing you what was funny when used on a Toon can be ridiculously deadly on an actual person. Even his looks is now 10 times more menacing than ever, with his piercing red eyes that no one can ever forget, and a voice whose pitch can go uncomfortably high.
Remember me, Eddie?
When I killed your brother, I talked. Yes!
I don't think there can be anyone who can be that threatening with a chipmunk voice, or have that high of a pitch in general, other than me! Judge Doom, if he's this bad, then I don't think I want to meet the guy who drew him that way.
This is how we handle things down in Toontown.
Be prepared.
By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes.
Then rang the bells both loud and deep. God is not dead, nor doth he sleep.
Let me just start off by saying that I love Something Wicked This Way Comes. Written by the same author of the novel it was based on, Ray Bradbury, this movie has to be one of Disney's most underrated films next to The Rescuers Down Under. However, I can understand why Disney doesn't really want to talk about it. This is a really dark movie, beyond Disney standards. So much so that the entire film made it all the way up to number 3 on my top 10 scariest Disney moments. If you guys don't know what I mean, let's just say that there is this one scene where our main characters have to fight off a room full of tarantulas. And that's not even the scariest part of the film. No, the true terror of all this comes from Mr. Dark, who would lure people into his pandemonium carnival and do the most terrible thing to his guests. Make their dreams come true. But it's not just that. In exchange, you have to have a consequence to it, as well as joining the carnival, like giving your soul to Dark. For example, ever want to be beautiful again? Bam! Now you're the hottest chick in town. Too bad you can't see it, though. Or anything for that matter. Or ever want to have a special foreign lady in your life? Well, how about this one? Or why not several at the same time? And while you're at it, how about you become one yourself? Have fun during that special time of the month. You see, Mr. Dark is the leader of what is known as the Autumn People, who's said to come from the dust and feed on people's nightmares and pain, which is why he grants people's wishes so they can suffer the consequences afterwards, and he can feed on their desires they had before. But what truly makes this guy absolutely threatening is the power that he holds that we don't know about. We know he's able to do some dark magic, but we don't know to what extent he's able to do with it. Maybe what we just saw is just a fraction of his true power, and he's able to take the whole town in one swipe. Plus the fact that he seems to know everything about everyone in town, like their hopes, dreams, and even fears, and use them to manipulate his victims to join his carnival. And with Jonathan Pryce giving out a magnificent performance, he can make a scene where he's just having a conversation feel intense and suspenseful.
Fine voyage, fine. Both of them quite a credit to this little town, if you want to know the truth.
I do want to know the truth, sir. And the truth is that you are lying. You see, I already have their names. I got them from a blind girl. Used to be a teacher hereabouts.
Oh, man, you could just feel the evilness coming out of them. And for some odd reason, I just love it.
Mysterious, sinister, and feeds on negative energy, there's a reason why he earns the name Mr. Dark.
So, you do understand a little.